So when did you last see some kind of harm being caused? Perhaps it was something that you experienced directly, something that happened to someone you love. Perhaps you've been reading something on the news, or perhaps even it was you who caused the harm. And what did you do when it happened? What was your response? So tonight I'm going to be launching a new 6-week series, and we're going to be exploring how working directly on our minds through meditation can help bring about the changes that we want to see. So changes in our personal lives, in our work environments, in our communities, our country, and across the world. And you can drop into any of the sessions, they'll stand alone, but you can also tune into the whole series and they'll thread together as we progress through them. So a very warm welcome to you this evening. My name is Charlotte and I'm one of the teachers here at the Brixton Buddhist community, coming to you from our studio. And a particularly warm welcome if it's your first time tuning in to one of our online events. So we have a lively chat room during these sessions. And so go ahead and drop your name, say hello, where you're from. And also this evening, I'd like you to just let me know of an issue that matters to you at the moment, something that you'd like to see some change happen around. And also I'll be taking comments and questions towards the end, so do feel free to drop them into the chat room at any point during the session. And also, if you're watching this after it's been streamed, if you're somewhere in the future to now, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the alert button so you can follow this series and any other events in the future. So we all want lots of different things to change, lots of things that matter to us at the moment. Of course, we're particularly aware of things happening around the Black Lives Matter movement, different things happening in our environment, various different important movements going on for us across the world. And we'll be affected by these personally in different ways. And of course, there are other issues that will matter to us too in our work and perhaps in our communities around us. And these can seem very complicated. They can be sort of playing out on lots of different levels, on social levels, political levels. There can be economic and legal factors coming into play as well. And and there can be kind of long historical trajectories that have brought us to where we are today. And of course, these are really important to deal with, and it's important to address these issues at these different levels. And there's a huge range of resources and initiatives out there for responding constructively. So I was actually really delighted to hear that one of my friends can't be here this evening because she's on an Understanding Whiteness workshop at the moment. So there's lots of different things that we can do to address these issues. And we can work directly on our minds through meditation. So when we encounter suffering, something difficult, we feel it. So we feel it in our bodies, and we tend to move very quickly to push away the kind of discomfort and unpleasant feelings that we feel in our bodies. And we can do this in different ways. We all have different strategies. Some of us get angry, some of us freeze, we can suppress the feelings, or we just feel the need to do something, to act, sometimes without seeing if that's what's actually needed. And of course, this isn't always the most helpful thing to be doing, either for ourselves or for other people. So one of the things that meditation helps us to do is just to slow down that whole process, to actually sort of go inward for a few moments and see how we're doing, see how we're reacting to the situation as it's unfolding, and then we can try to respond with greater self-awareness. So that's what we're going to do now. I'd like to just invite you to get comfy, and we're going to do a bit of a body awareness practice to check in with how we're doing right now. You don't need to be sat in any particular fancy posture, just be wherever you are. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And just take a moment to see what it likes, see what it feels like, just to turn inwards. It might be the first time today that we've closed our eyes and taken a moment just to pause. Might notice the sounds around us in the room and outside as well. Perhaps taking a couple of deeper breaths in and out. Noticing the contact of our body with the chair or the sofa, whatever we're sat on. See if you can locate the boundary between that object and your body. Feeling the weight of your body pressing down, perhaps through the sitting bones and the buttocks, and the legs, and the feet on the floor. Noticing if our weight is distributed evenly across both sides of the body, whether we're leaning a little bit more forward or back. Having a sense of heaviness and weight. Let's start exploring the body to see if we can find any areas of tension. Just stay with whichever area you notice first. It might be in the belly, the shoulders, or the face. Just bring a bit of curiosity to the area. What do those sensations of tightness really feel like? Is there some pain there, or maybe it's just a holding, pulling inwards? You can notice the area around that tension. How far does it spread out? Where are its borderlands? Just seeing if there's any particular thoughts or emotional states attached to these areas of tension. Perhaps it's anxiety, might just be a bit of tiredness. It's fine if they don't have any particular label. Just noticing the cycle of our breath now. Our next in-breath, allowing it to fill our bodies a little bit more deeply. And on the out-breath, just see if we can allow the area of tension to ease, expand, and let go. I want to do that for a few cycles. Let's see how the sensations in the body have changed now around the area. Do they still feel unpleasant? Perhaps a sense of release and pleasure there. Now noticing the breath wherever we feel it most in the body. Perhaps around the chest or the belly or the throat. See if we can follow the breath through its cycles in and out. The spaces in between the breath. I'm just seeing, is there anything that we've been particularly concerned about today that's maybe been happening in our lives or that we've been reading about in the news? See if you can bring that to mind. Just see if you can track what happens in the body. Where do we tense up again if we do? Is there a sense of pushing it away? Any particular thoughts or emotions that emerge? Just noticing how we respond in the body, in our minds, to contact with that thing that we're finding cause of concern at the moment. Just like we did before, noticing the area of tension, exploring its boundaries. Again, breathing in a bit more deeply. On the out breath, see if you can let go of some of that tension. See if that's possible. And again, coming back to the cycle of the breath in the body. Expanding out our awareness now to the whole of the body, the sense of being a whole, living, breathing human being, sat here. And bringing into our awareness any other people that are in the room with us or in the same building. Being aware that we're joined in this live stream with other people, people we know and some of our friends, people we don't know. And dropping any sense that we're trying to do anything at all. And just sit here for a moment. Great, so I'll go over to the chat room and do a few shout outs now and see who's with us. Great, we've got Jill. Greetings from Gypsy Hill, lovely to see you as well, Jill. We've got Ben in West Norwood, Janice from Wandsworth Common, Joe as well from Tulse Hill, Alex from Battersea, Kirsty in Brixton, my mum, hello Lynn from Wiltshire, nice to have my mum here. My good friend Emma also in Brixton, he says thank you for the series, feels very well timed, yes, thank you. John here from Hook, first time. Oh, my dad's here. Oh, my dad's here too. That's great. He must be in his van somewhere tuning in. Tony's coming in from New Zealand. I think you get the prize for being furthest away. Good friend points. And Daisy's also here as well with a big love heart too. So yeah, lovely to see some of you here online. Yeah, so if we think of the issues that we're concerned about, personal or ones that just affect us personally or more broadly, just wondering if we can think of any of these where a change could happen without communication being needed with another human being. Yes, anything that we can think about. Is it possible for there to be any movement, any progress without communication with others? And how often does communication actually go the way that we want it to? How often does it really satisfy everyone involved? And yeah, I've just been sort of thinking recently about the different things that I would like to move on. I had a little bit of an unfortunate interaction with a group of young guys in Brockwell Park recently. I thought at 30 I wouldn't have to deal with getting slightly unwanted attention and inappropriate comments, but anyway, one does occasionally have that. And yes, I was coming out of Brockwell Park, and I would really like for communication between young men and women to be smoother, because it is tricky and everyone feels awkward and various sides get hurt. But anyway, so I'd really like this sort of thing to move on. I've often thought in the past, if something happened again, that I would say something, you know, something helpful, something to like connect across this like awkward divide between the genders that makes us do some really weird things. So I'm at the traffic lights, and I'm aware of this group of guys next to me, and I'm doing so. Different women have different approaches to a bit of discomfort around guys, and so I do my thing that I do is I don't make eye contact, and I kind of look slightly awkwardly across the road. So that's what I'm doing. And then what must have happened is that one of the guys must have noticed something about me, and his friend must have noticed him noticing me. And then that guy said something that was quite unpleasant about me to that guy, yeah? And this is exactly the sort of thing, talking to other female friends of mine, that I would like to see change with, yeah? So some kind of movement, some kind of different kind of communication pattern to happen. And of course, my response actually was to freeze up, and I didn't say what I think might be helpful in that situation. And of course, then afterwards, you know, I'm wondering, what could I do differently? What could they have done differently as well? So how do we move on these kind of communication patterns that we find so difficult between us in all sorts of different areas of our life? And again, we need lots of different tools. So in this particular instant, I've decided I'm doing a bit of a training course that kind of helps women find their voice in those kind of scenarios. Of course, we need younger men to have a lot better education and have a sense of what's going on for them as well in their interaction with women. It'd also be really good if we didn't have the responsibility put on women to be doing things like training courses in the first place. But of course, what's the foundation of these kind of tools that we need? Yeah, what's the foundation of them? And I think really at the heart of it is a basic awareness of self and other that involves consciously shifting our attention between the two and being concerned with both. Yeah, sort of mutual concern for both sides. And we need to create space for each other. We need to create space for the other person to try to understand them from their side, to listen, and to try not to fix straight away. Yeah, I think quite often what happens if we encounter suffering, maybe of a loved one, we just want to help them. We want to stop feeling the discomfort of having someone we care about be hurt, and we can kind of jump into a bit of the helper mode or the saviour mode, and actually that can be quite disempowering for people as well. And we also need to develop the courage to bring ourselves into the conversation more fully as well, from a place of deeper self-knowledge, of self-worth, and also at times of humility as well. And to understand that we and the other person don't turn up neutral to these conversations. So there's many reasons why we might not feel safe to have a particular kind of communication or not want it at a particular time. And we all have battle scars that we bring in to our relationships and our dynamics with each other. And some of those are much deeper than others. We need to be able to help each other kind of see where those are coming out and what we need to do to make each other feel comfortable to talk to each other. And of course, in some situations, people are just tired of having the same conversation over and over and over and over again. Yeah, so they don't want to be having to bring up the same dynamics with a different person. So the Metta Bhavana practice, it's a meditation practice that we're going to be focusing on for these 6 weeks, is a really powerful training ground for developing the perspective and skills that we need for good communication. So Metta Bhavana is, well, they're two separate words, they're Pali words. So Pali is an ancient Indian language. And Metta translates roughly as loving kindness, and Bhavana as the cultivation or development of. So it's a meditation practice to develop loving kindness. And we use our imagination in this practice, and there's different ways that we can do it. But we use our imagination to connect with different types of people. So traditionally we teach it in 5 stages, and in the first 4 stages we bring to mind different people. So we first do ourselves, someone that we like, then someone that we don't know particularly well, and then in the 4th stage someone that we find a bit difficult. They often get labelled as the difficult person or the enemy. And in the practice we bring them to mind, and then we just notice our response. So like we did in the previous meditation, we just notice what happens in our bodies, what happens in our minds, what kind of thoughts do we have towards that person or even to ourselves. And then we've got a choice at this point. So we've been receptive and open to see what's been going on inside. And then we can make a choice to also wish that person well. Yeah, so actively wish them to be well. And again, we can use some, traditionally we can use some kind of stock phrases. So you could say, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering. And again, we can go back to noticing our response. And for those of us who've been doing this for a while, or even if we're new to it actually, we can really easily rush through the stages. Yeah, we can just kind of like rush on, sort of bring someone in. We kind of can use the phrases as a bit of a kind of mantra. We can be like, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be happy. But actually what can be really good to do is just to slow the whole process right down. And my parents are going to like this. We can treat it like learning how to dance. Yeah. So dancing, when you learn to dance. So my mum and my dad were both dance teachers, and they're Latin American and ballroom dance teachers. And what you learn, I used to learn when I was a wee one as well, is you learn this. You learn this kind of sense of here's me and my body and my responses, and here's you and your body and your responses. When you're learning how to dance, you do have to really slow it down. You can't just learn how to do a foxtrot very quickly. Yeah, you have to get a sense of yourself and the other person, and you have to learn the steps. And you do it over and over and over and over again, and you build up the muscle memory, but you also build up the relationship between you and your partner. Yeah, that's really key. So we're going to do a practice now to start exploring this a little bit more, and we'll be continuing to do that in the 5 sessions that will follow this as well. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be I'm going to be exploring what it's like to be with ourselves again, like we were before. To be curious about our own experience, and we're going to be introducing a couple of these phrases again of may you be well, may I be well, may I be happy, and we're going to see what happens when we do that. And then the second stage of the practice, we're going to be doing that with a good friend. Yeah, so we're going to be imaginatively inviting them into our kind of mental space. And yeah, we can explore a few different ways of doing that. I like to imagine someone physically being in the room with me, or perhaps sat next to me on the sofa. And yeah, we'll be getting to a bit of an exploration about what it feels like to come into contact with that other person in our minds. It's a bit of a training ground for the communication we'd like to have. Yeah. So again, you can just get settled again in a posture that suits you. Just get comfy, and again, you can close your eyes. And just noticing what it feels like to come into yourself, come into your own awareness. Finding contact with the chair. And the weight dropping down into the ground. Noticing the breath moving in the body. The in-breath and the out-breath. Aware of any thoughts or images going on in the mind. See if you can tune into your general kind of emotional state at the moment. Just see if you can get a sense of yourself as a human being in time. Yeah, so we've all had various goings on in our lives that have shaped who we are right now. Various happy times that we've had, or our loved ones and positive memories with them that have shaped us. Also all those difficulties as well, our struggles. Just have a sense of what it feels like to just sit here in awareness of the complexity of ourselves, our particular patterns and habits, things we like about ourselves, and the things we don't like. What happens in the body when we bring to mind a sense of our wholeness, the light and the dark? What sensations can you feel in the body? We're going to try one of these traditional phrases of "May I be well." Just say that to yourself. Do it silently, or you can even do it out loud. Again, just see what the response is in your body to wishing yourself well. Okay, we can drop in another phrase of "May I be happy." Particularly noticing any sensations around the more emotional centres of the body. So we can hold our emotions in the throat, the chest and the belly. That's some of the key areas. Can also explore developing a sense of listening, of curiosity with what we and others really need. So we could even try asking ourselves a question of what do we really need right now? What do we really need to be happy? You might have a particular response to that or not. And just noticing what happens in the body. And maybe around the belly and the chest. So what we're going to do is we're just going to bring to mind someone that we have regular communication with. Yes, it might be someone that we live with, it might be a loved one. It might be a friend that we speak to regularly on the phone now, or someone at work. So just choose whoever comes to mind first. Just stick with them, they're fine. Now we're going to use our powerful capacity for imagination to bring them into a space with us. So some people are quite visual, so you might be able to see their face in your mind. Might be able to recall what their voice sounds like. To see if you can get more of a sense of their physical presence. But not just an idea of them, a sense of what it's actually like to be around them. I quite like to imagine someone sat next to me. Just noticing, what does it feel like to be in relationship now to another person? Where is your attention right now? What happens in the body when you bring to mind this person? Again, checking in with the belly, chest and the throat. Moving your attention back to the other person again. See if, without making stories about them, see if we can just get a sense of the wholeness of their life. Again, just like us, they'll have been shaped by their past experiences. They'll have also hopefully experienced joy and happiness, and they'll have also had their own pain, their own suffering that they've gone through. Some of this you might know about. Also, even with those closest to us, there's always a sense of mystery there, isn't there? There's always a sense of there being things unknown. Why they do their little quirky things that they do. See what it feels like to sit with that. Now you could even get a sense of what would it be like being the other person sat next to you? What would it be like to see the world from their eyes? Do they want the same things as you do, or do they want other things? We often have the sense of being in the centre of the universe, don't we? And of course, the other person probably has exactly the same experience. Coming back to you and how you're doing, just see now what it feels like to wish that person well. Yeah, to really want the best for them. Just like we did with ourselves, you can say, may you be well. May you be happy. Again, feeling into the body, what happens in response to that. Perhaps we don't know what that person really needs to be happy and well. Perhaps in our minds we could ask them. Just developing a bit more sense of curiosity, letting go of any tendency to try and fix them, to save them, to help them from your perspective. Just creating a bit of space to ask them what is it that they really need. Seeing if now you can just get a sense of holding the two of you in your awareness equally. Sense of well-wishing towards the two of you. Now letting the other person fade in your awareness. You might want to give them a little wave, say goodbye to them as they go. We'll take a few moments just to sit here and absorb what that feels like. Perhaps noticing the quality of our breathing now. So the breath can be a really good indicator of our mental and emotional states. And when we're relaxed and at ease, the breath is also smooth as well. Dropping any sense that you're trying to meditate, and we'll just sit here for a few moments. Great, so I hope you found that helpful, just to see what it feels like to connect in with ourselves, another person, and yeah, just get a bit more sort of confidence in kind of moving between our attention towards ourselves and others, that kind of sense of curiosity and play that can come in when we're in communication with someone. And so then what we're going to be doing over the next 5 weeks, each week we're going to be taking a different stage of the Metta Bhavana. So again, that's ourselves, there'll be a friend of ours, someone we don't know, someone we're finding a bit difficult, and in the final stage we'll be looking at, we'll be bringing in all living beings. That's what happens in the 5th stage, as we equalise a sense of well-wishing towards the 4 people in the first 4 stages, and then we expand outwards. And what we're going to do in each of these weeks, we're going to be diving a bit more deeply into working with one of those people, yeah, and exploring kind of what comes up with us and what kind of tools are available in that practice in our lives when we're off the cushion, yeah. So what I just encourage you to do maybe over this next week is well, look up doing a Metta Bhavana practice, or maybe something like we've just done there, a short version of it. Maybe also be doing a few more kind of body scans, getting a bit more of a sense of your own, yeah, your own kind of being, your own life, your own kind of reactions in different situations. And I just really invite you to see how some of those things that we've been developing can start translating into your life, yeah, off the meditation cushion. So for example, when we're shifting our awareness between ourselves and another person, just see what happens when you're communicating with your partner or your children or someone at work. You know, just notice, like, where's the attention? You know, is it here? Is it on me? Is it with that person? Is it somewhere in between? Am I not really conscious of what's going on? So you can notice where is the attention moving? Where are you in there? So we often talk about not feeling seen, don't we? That's what often happens when communication breaks down. So we don't feel like we've been seen. Well, what does that really mean? Are we seeing ourselves? Are we actually noticing where we are for ourselves, what's going on for us? Do we feel that the other person's not listening? Are we kind of seeing them as well? So you can kind of play around with that. And then we're kind of trying to develop this sense of kind of curiosity towards the other person. Maybe if there's a bit of miscommunication going on, or something that you'd like to say, just see if you can come at it with a sense of kind of openness and receptivity to both sides, yeah? Maybe ask a question. Maybe if you don't know what's going on for someone, maybe you could just ask them, what's happening for you right now, yeah? So we're going to see if we can start experimenting a little bit more in our lives with making these connections between our meditation practice and communication with other people, verbally or with our body language. And yeah, I hope you'll join us for some of those sessions as we run through them. Yeah, so I've got a bit of time now for some questions in a few minutes. So yeah, do feel free to put your questions and comments down onto the chat room. I can see that a few people have made some comments already, so we'll come on to those in a bit. But what I'd like to do now is a little bit of a slot for what we call our Dana appeal. So basically what I'm going to do is just to invite you to be part of our vision here at Brixton Buddhist Community to change the world positively by giving your kind of financial support to us. So I really believe that anyone who wants to should have the opportunity to access Buddhist and meditation teaching and be part of our community in whatever way they feel comfortable. And as you'll probably been noticing if you've been tuning in for a while, we are growing. We're trying to offer kind of more and more and reach out to groups that maybe might not traditionally come along to our classes as well, and to make sure we're giving them things that really work for them, that they feel that they need at the moment. And there's always much more that we could do with further funding. So each month we are trying to reach £2,000 in donations to help us keep going with our current costs, and also to be able to expand our activities. So hopefully somewhere here is our Dana-ometer. And you should be able to see, I think, that we've been able to raise £833 so far this month for June. So thank you so much to those of you who have given. We've got a bit over £1,000 still to go for this month, so we've got some good time to do that. I'll just say a few thank yous now to people who have given recently. So thank you to Olivier, who set up a new monthly donation, Alex B, who's increased his monthly donation, and we've had some one-offs as well, so thank you to Stephen for doing that. And also to Louise and Nigel, who gave to us last month in May, but we haven't had a chance to thank yet. Yeah, so thank you very much for doing that. And there'll be a link to our donation page in the description below. I've got this in big red writing on my paper to remind myself that it's down there. So have a little look, and please give as much or as little as you can. We really appreciate any donation that you can give us. Yeah, so just going to see if there are any questions or comments. So maybe you might have a question about how these kind of meditations might help you in your daily life. I don't think we've got any questions at the moment, but some lovely comments from various friends and my mum. Hello, mum. Yeah, Kirsty said that it's a really helpful image. I'm guessing you mean about dancing. That only came to me yesterday, but yeah, I do think there's something really in there, because I think with dancing, it is a communication of the body. And we can often get caught up with our communication with thinking it's just about words, but really it's an energetic thing. It's much more of an energetic thing that we're doing with each other, that kind of gets crystallized or sometimes complicated by the words that we're using with each other. But it's much more to do with the sense of connection and energy that we have between each other, and whether or not it's flowing very well or not. Yeah, so I hope that's helpful. I'll see if I can weave it in during the other weeks. Great, so I don't think we've got any other questions or comments at the moment. Good, yeah, maybe I'll just give a few announcements. So coming up this week, we've got Viryanaga, who's going to be talking about what the Buddha said about trolling. Some of you a few weeks ago will know that we had our first Zoom bombing experience. I wasn't there, but it wasn't particularly pleasant for anyone who was involved. So we will have a little look at what the Buddha said about trolling. I'm assuming the Buddha didn't have trolls back in the time, but he did definitely have troublemakers. And then, yeah, next week we'll be diving deeper into we'll be diving deeper into the first stage of the Metabhavana practice. So getting more of a sense of our own needs, desires and reactions, and looking at some of the kind of patterns and habits in our minds and with our communication, with our actions, that might trip us up a bit and disconnect us from other people. And yeah, next Wednesday we'll be joined by Dharma Mega, who is a really, really cracking woman, really, really amazing woman from South Africa, who's now living in the UK. And she's going to be doing a talk on what is success, which I think will be, yeah, really great. So do tune into that. She's very, very thoughtful and articulate. And just to see, there's a few more comments. Yeah, my mum Lynn, she's saying with dance there is a dynamic, a blending between each other and a blurring between the edges. Yes, there is. There definitely is that, isn't there? Yeah, and that kind of like leading and following that happens in it, which I think is really beautiful. So we're going to be doing a Zoom call after this session at 8:45, which you're really welcome to come along to. And we're having a bit more of an opportunity to dive a bit more deeply into some of the areas we've started exploring tonight. You might want to be bringing in a couple of personal examples about stuff that you're working with around communication at the moment, or perhaps Yeah, perhaps you've been reading stuff on the news about the various protests going on or various other things that are happening around the world, and yeah, maybe just feeling like you don't quite know what to do or how to respond in a way that's helpful for yourself and for other people. So there's a space to talk about that as well. And yeah, you can just come along. So if you haven't joined us one of those Zoom meetings, and again, the link will be below in the description. Yeah, you're just invited to come along. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. If it's your first time, you can just come along and say hello and kind of see where the discussion goes. Yeah, it can feel a bit weird to kind of, I think, the first time that you join one of these things. I remember what it was like coming along to the London Buddhist Centre for the first time, and I just felt, I mean, I didn't do it for months. I was really wanting to go, and yeah, I felt really awkward, and then I spent most of the time trying to like avoid people because I felt like I was very new and didn't know anyone, and everyone seemed to be talking to each other. And of course, when we're doing this online, we're also in our own homes as well. So it's not like you've just gone out to the centre, you're welcoming the centre into your own home. So I totally get that. You can maybe put a background on for your Zoom if you want to as well. So I'll be kicking off at 7:45, so you're really welcome to come along to that, and I'll be there at 8:45. You're welcome to come along to that, and I'll be there as well. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's anything else that I need to add. No, I don't think I've done that. I've told you about the various links that are in the description. Yeah, and yeah, I hope you can come along to next week's session as well. And yeah, we'll just keep exploring this stuff together. So yeah, hope to see you in the Zoom call soon, and if not, another one of our events coming up.